that everyone had anticipated would eventually come, but it came today in this odd way that everything comes, which is via live stream. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has endorsed Joe Biden. Joe Biden had a live stream set up for his supporters today, and he invited a special guest on, and Bernie Sanders gave a very full-throated endorsement of the former Vice President Calev and said that not only does he want every Democrat, but he wants every independent, and he even talked to some Republicans to come out and vote for a change here. He said that he is endorsing Joe Biden's candidacy. Now, of course, you know, when you look at what does an endorsement carry, very little generally. Bernie Sanders, though, has a following that is very loyal and adherent to what his beliefs and his desires are. What he gave to Hillary Clinton in 2016 wasn't enough for many of them, wasn't enough for Clinton in retrospect right now. But Joe Biden seems to already be getting more, and it seems that Bernie Sanders is going to do a little bit more for Joe Biden than he did for Hillary Clinton. One thing you have to remember is while Joe Biden won this primary in overwhelming fashion, and he doesn't have the delegates yet, but it looks like he's on the road to the nomination, Calev, what he didn't do is win voters 45 and under, and in many cases he lost that block badly, and Bernie Sanders does have some command over those voters, and this endorsement should help to secure some of them, the comfort level of some of them, to support Joe Biden. Calev?
Right, Michael. As you said, it was expected it would come. There was some speculation it would come further down the road, so Bernie Sanders would have more leverage, perhaps, in influencing the Democratic platform. But perhaps what we're seeing here is a sort of lesson learned from 2016, an earlier unification behind the candidate in order to take back the White House from the Republicans.
Yeah, and that's very true. And I also think what you're seeing here is a man who's well known for his ego, and I don't say this in a critical way about Bernie Sanders necessarily. Everyone who runs for office has a certain amount of ego, but Bernie Sanders has had to swallow a little pride here. He was on top. He won the first 3 out of the first 4 contests, at least nominally in Iowa by the popular vote. And then he comes into this situation where he could have some leverage. He's staying on the ballot, so you have this odd situation where he's endorsing the person running against him, but he's staying on the ballot. That said, though, that he did have to swallow some pride to do this, and because of that, I think a lot of his supporters will look and see that this might be the right thing to do this time.
Well, it will be interesting to see if his supporters, especially his hardcore younger supporters, will actually listen to him and go out and vote for Joe Biden on Election Day. I want to now go back to the coronavirus pandemic. We have seen, of course, now the White House now coming out with a statement saying that President Trump is going to stand, for the time being, Anthony Fauci will remain part of this team at the White House, despite the president retweeting a tweet that had that hashtag Fire Fauci. But the President Trump increasingly talking about easing restrictions, even while these numbers continue to rise in the U.S. And that could put him into conflict not only with Dr. Anthony Fauci, but maybe even more importantly with governors such as you have in California, Gavin Newsom, who have really worked early and have insisted on maintaining these restrictions until there's really an all clear on the coronavirus.
Yeah, there's no question, and I think it's very important that you point out that distinction, because the governors actually have some say-so in this, in terms of the fact that a governor in the United States is essentially, we've discussed this before, the president of a state, and so they have a lot of power when it comes to what the states do. You saw Gavin Newsom here in California, and Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, where I am now. They said already that this is going to stay in place, that California is essentially shut down until the 15th of May, getting out ahead of any kind of overtures that the president's going to make to some other governors about reopening the country. The other part of this that we have to look at is the fact that as it might be flattening in other states, coronavirus hasn't even hit so many states in this country. And as that happens, this is going to change. You already see California sending ventilators back. You see New York lending ventilators to other cities, other states. So this is going to sort of move through the United States in places where it hasn't hit just yet. How the president president can say that they're going back to work is what is befuddling some of these governors, but others are saying we have to. There are conservatives out there saying we are not going to cow to this virus. We need to get the economy moving again, and that has been an argument from the very beginning. As far as Fauci is concerned, we talked about that conflict between them. Fauci is someone who is there to advise the president as part of that task force. He's a federal employee that the president on his own cannot fire. He can probably get someone to fire him, but he doesn't have the authority to fire him. Fauci doesn't report to the president. That said, it doesn't seem in the White House, Hogan Gidley, a spokesperson at the White House today, saying that there's not even a remote chance of that happening right now. We don't know if that's the case. But for the moment, what the president's trying to do is saying that I am still the president, and what I want to do, I am going to share with the American people and some of these other Republican governors. Calev?
Right. We should know we've heard those White House reassurances before, up to the moment when officials have been dismissed. So take it as you will.
No question.
Michael.